quarterbacks to talk to. We know they brought in Bo Nix. We know they brought in Spencer Rattler. And you took a look at both these guys.
Yeah, and that was your idea, which is a good one. And I'm just curious if Bo Nix is going to be there when the Seahawks get to 16. I don't know that they necessarily think that he's the greatest, but I feel like he's in the mix. That's why they brought him in. Again, they didn't bring in Penix because they pretty much know everything about him because of Ryan Grubb. And
they went to his pro day.
Yeah, they were there, and I think that was one of the days that we interviewed John. So, but yeah, you look at Bo Nix, 6'2", 215. He's a grown man. He's 24 years old. Guy played in like 61 college football games. So, but he goes, first to Auburn, and he gets named the starter as a true freshman at Auburn, and had a decent year. But then, things got in 21 got kind of miserable for him. He didn't like the coach there. Apparently, that's at least what it sounded like. That he wasn't super happy with him. So he got frustrated and entered the portal and goes to Oregon. But man, you look at what he did last year. Number 2 in the nation with yardage, 45.08 behind Penix. Number 1 in touchdowns at 45, and then he only had 3 interceptions.
That's pretty amazing. He put the ball up. How many times? 470 times he put that ball in the air.
Yeah.
3 picks.
And he was 77% completion percentage. And then the other thing about him is that somebody did some kind of a adjusted percentage based on like drops and things that weren't his fault, and they had him at 85%. So, yeah, and he's got a couple of good receivers, Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin, that both went over 1,000 yards, and Troy Franklin had 14 touchdowns. Tez Johnson had 10 touchdowns. So, yeah, he makes every throw. It's pretty amazing. His feet are really good. He makes lots of off-scheduled throws, kind of like Penix. And but yeah, he's projected in the second round. I don't think he's going to be there.
Well, how do you think it would go over? Seahawks are sitting there at 16, and you got Bo Nix is still there, and Penix is still there, and they take Bo Nix.
Yeah.
How do you think Husky Nation around here would respond to that?
Yeah, I don't think people would be happy about that. I know that there's a big hatred for the Ducks, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at this guy. He's just had success the entire way, and I don't know, something like over 100 touchdowns, 26 interceptions. Like I said, he's married. He's a grown man. He's 24 years old. The Auburn coach was a guy named Brian Harsin, and that's who he kind of got sideways with. It said he was miserable there, and then he ends up getting hurt, so that's why he transferred to Oregon. But yeah, when you look at all of the things that he does, he can pretty much do everything. He's not like super fast. I didn't see a 40 time from him, but I was looking at how he threw at the combine, and he looked good. Guy has huge hands, if you're into that kind of thing. It's like,
well, it's not my kink, but everybody's got a different thing.
Because mine, I think, are like 9 7/8. Well, I'm a linebacker and 240 pounds, and his is like 10 1/8. So yeah, he's got big hands. He's got all the tools, in other words. So yeah, he really is. He's a really good, solid player. Now here's the only criticism. So he was only sacked 5 times last year at Oregon. So we talked about that Powers, Jackson Powers kid, the center, from Oregon that we were talking about the other day, and He's the center there, obviously, Jackson Powers Johnson. And then, like I said, he had Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson. He's got some good guys around him. And one of the scouts' comments was, what's it going to be like, with when he doesn't have that Oregon offense around him, all those pieces and everything. It was, I don't want to say it was easy, but they had a lot of good pieces. And, what's it going to be like when things get uncomfortable? Because when you look at this guy, again, 61 games that he played, and he's had a ton of success. How's he handle the hard parts of it?
Yeah. All right. Number 2 here, another guy they brought in, and I've seen him kind of consistently in the mid round in terms of the mocks. Again, means nothing. He could go much earlier, much later. But Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I was looking at Spencer, and here's what the quote was on him, is that he was everybody's mid-round favorite. He's a projection of a 4th-round guy. And so I automatically start thinking about Russell Wilson. There's kind of some similarities. The only thing I would say, though, is that Russ is faster. Rattler, not and he's got 4.95 speed. Like I said, I didn't even see what Bo Nix's 40 was, but 4.95. But he's a creative runner, but he doesn't have blazing speed. He can make all of the throws. The one sort of knock also at the combine, he had a tough time with the deep balls. He had like 6 or 7 shots, and I think maybe one of them, when he got a chance to get out there. But here's what's interesting. So he's also a transfer portal guy. And again, 4th round projection, but he was at Oklahoma for 3 years. He got beat out by Caleb Williams, who's going to be the number 1 pick. So he transfers to South Carolina for the 22 and 23 season. Now, I don't know when this happened, but he ended up being the captain for the team. And he just got there. And that was the same thing that happened with Russ. When he went from NC State to Wisconsin, right after spring training, they named him the captain just because of his leadership. So similar type of guy in that regard.
Do you have his completion percentage there?
Yeah, 68%.
Okay.
77.
When you're talking about him missing on the deep ball, I'm just wondering what they asked him to do there. If they were a team that were stretching the field on a rare occasion, or if they did it all the time. I just
think it was nerves. I mean, I looked at him he's out there in his underwear, right? It's at the combine, and he's just chucking long balls, and we all know that Russ, phenomenal long ball thrower. So yeah, I projected in the 4th round, and I just thought, yeah, that would be cool if they could get a guy like that who's a project. I mean, you look at Kirk Cousins was drafted in the 4th round, Russell Wilson the 3rd, obviously. So he had 5 games where he threw over 300 yards. His rushing yards aren't super impressive. Same period of time, he ran for 400 yards. Russ ran for 1421. So Russ is a much more dynamic runner, but this guy looks like, and he has some really good. I just mentioned this guy, Xavier Leggett, I think it's Leggett, 6'1", 220 pounds, and he's just incredibly explosive, the receiver that they have at South Carolina. So ran a 4.39 40, and he's in the mix to get drafted, but kind of reminded me of Anquan Bolden. So, yeah, he's got some guys that can get loose deep, and he had no problem throwing deep balls during the game. So I don't know why that happened to him at the combine, but it wasn't one of those things. Like C.J. Stroud, when he went to the combine last year, he pretty much proved to everyone on every throw, this is who I am. I'm the 2nd pick in the draft or whatever he was. So
yeah, the Panthers still said, nah, we'll go with the other guy.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting looking at. I would not be against them taking a 4th round, and or even a 3rd round and getting Spencer Rattler again.